Hey guys, nice to meet you all. I'm Harsharn. You also may know me as Yogi online. I'm director of BD at Thesis and one of the contributors at Mezo. Today I'm excited to talk to you guys about the full Bitcoin stack that we're building at Thesis. As you can see, our stack from a backwards compatibility layer with Fold, Mezo our economic layer, Acre our Bitcoin rewards aggregator, and TBTC our liquidity hub. And so I think the first thing I want to kind of get out of the way is that everyone loves Ponzonomics. We love Ponzonomics, but they're not long-lived. And so I think the big thing that we're focusing on as we start building out this Bitcoin economy is how do we start creating value for users? How do we build something more long-term instead of something that focuses purely on cycles? And I say that because we're multi-cyclers. We've been in the space since 2013, building on Bitcoin across the studio. We've seen what works, what doesn't work, what narratives are there, and that kind of gives us a viewpoint on where we are today and where we want to go in the future. And so to kind of jump in, Fold was our first portco that launched back in 2014. It's a Bitcoin rewards network, debit card, credit card in the US that is now going public. We announced that at Bitcoin Nashville. And this is our way to get to consumers. I think distribution and making onboarding super easy for the customer is very important. So we've been live for the past 10 years and scaling. And I think this is the best way to think about it as an on-off ramp for people to not only get onto Bitcoin, but how do they use that Bitcoin in the real world, whether it's to buy a house, buy a car, or spend on college tuition. The second thing we then built was TBTC. It's how do we put Bitcoin to work? We've seen Bitcoin kind of like people have made jokes. It's a pet rock. It just sits on your desk. But how do we kind of unlock that capital that is sitting? It's a $1.2 trillion asset. How do we get it to be more productive in our daily lives? And so TBTC brought brought Bitcoin to EVM with the forward security model. It is live today on ETH, Polygon, Base, Solana, Arbitrum, and many others soon to be announced. We've done over $500 million. We have 225 million in TVL. And I call this the infrastructure layer for Bitcoin and how we kind of put it to work on the EVM side. That also leads us to Acre. Acre is our consumer app, Bitcoin rewards done right. It helps, how do we connect to the customer where they are, whether it's a web app, mobile app, via Ledger, and how do we make them take that first step on-chain? And so that's kind of the focus with Acre and how we've been building it out. Super clean UI. People don't want to worry about 15 clicks and what happens behind the scenes. They want to know that, hey, I have this Bitcoin. How do I start earning on that Bitcoin via rewards? Mezo's our economic layer. This is how it all kind of comes together. We've been building. We have a retail app with Fold, backwards compatibility layer. We have TBTC across various networks. We have Acre to aggregate rewards across multiple chains. Mezo is how do we start building this now all on Bitcoin? So it's our way of bringing EVM to Bitcoin and building out SocialFi, GameFi, and DeFi for the space. And so when you start thinking about why Mezo from a developer standpoint, we want to be a Bitcoin and Bitcoin out chain with Bitcoin as the gas asset. I think the second thing that's very important for us is bringing EVM. How do we make this friendly for people that have already been building in this space for the past 10 years? To bring their projects over on a culturally aligned Bitcoin chain. I think the last thing that's super important is ecosystem. As all of us know, when you're building in this space, ecosystem, community, both from the developer side, user side, and distribution is really what is important beyond just the pure tech stack and call it the innovation or novelty of your use case. So when I think about Bitcoin as a gas asset, we want to be Bitcoin maxi friendly. We've seen this, this largely untapped asset. I think less than 10% of Bitcoin moves around on other chains. And when you think about Bitcoin on EVM, you have the biggest asset is BitGo with WBTC, and it's about 10 billion. And about 75% of that Bitcoin hasn't moved in the past 2 years. And so how do we not only have Bitcoin as a core part of the app layer, but how do we make it friendly such that we get more participation? And so I think for us, having that is very important. The second thing is OrangeKit. So you don't want to alienate any of your consumers. And when you think about Bitcoin today, if anyone's dabbled in ordinals and runes in the past year, or used Bitcoin over the past 15 years, the wallet support is very different to EVM. And so when we think about building an EVM chain, we want to build it in a way where if you have a Bitcoin wallet, you can use it in an EVM way. And that's with OrangeKit, where you can have a Bitcoin key and wallet, which will then create an EVM key in the back end for you to sign contracts on Mezo and our ecosystem. The last thing is the EVM compatibility. We want to allow people to build easily, be able to port over any of their existing projects on the EVM ecosystem side, and use existing code. You don't want an ecosystem that has to start off with a very high hurdle rate, where it's super difficult to learn, where you have to spend a ton of time, especially since we're all in the early stages. Everyone's time is precious, and there's a lot of competing interests. I think another part that's going to be cool for us, we're very focused on Bitcoin Fi. It's called our cathedral and bazaar strategy, which I'll jump into in a little bit. But at our Oracle level, we're going to be having price updates at the block level via skip protocol. And so I think that's going to make it really interesting as we start building out use cases for perps on Bitcoin, margin, borrow, lend, where you have a lot more control on the data and a lot better data authenticity and timing compared to third-party oracles that may be a little delayed. So, and then as we think about building chains, I think one thing that is paramount is having a chain that's easy to use, fast to use, and cheap to use. And I think the best example of this is if you were on ETH DeFi during DeFi summer, transaction fees could get up to $200, $300, even $1,000. That limits the participation size from the community. And then even on Bitcoin, if you were doing runes or ordinals earlier this year, I think it was like $1,000 per block, and some of the stuff was delayed for a couple hours, which makes it really difficult. So for us, having low fees as a chain is important, but making it affordable, not too cheap, where we balance out the trade-offs, so that the network isn't overly spammed and beyond. So now, how do we win? We have a studio behind us. We have a bunch of projects that we're working with, but a lot of it now needs to come from the ecosystem, and we're very excited to partner with people. Our goal is we can build some of the basic stuff in-house, but beyond that 80–90%, we want to partner with projects across the ecosystem to work with us and kind of enable the future of Bitcoin Fi. And so a lot of this is going to happen together. We're very focused on social fi. How do we bring Bitcoin together? I think it's one of the biggest, it's the most socially accepted asset class in the world. We have strong tailwinds with the ETF approvals. And so now I think we're at a juxtaposition of how do we kind of enable this for the next generation for both consumer and financial use cases. So that's social fi, playing games, using it to buy a house, pay your student loans, being able to earn interest on your Bitcoin, running payroll, doing payments. As many of us know, at least my journey into crypto started from how do we do cross-border payments in a fast, seamless manner. I think that we have all the tech there today. Now it's about putting it together in a cohesive ecosystem. This is another view of kind of our project and our ecosystem. As you can see, how it all comes together. Everything is Bitcoin's the core, it's the heart, it's the jewel in the center of the mountain. TBTC is the liquidity layer that is going to connect all the chains that are using TBTC today. Mezo is where we want to start building out the Bitcoin Fi and social fi side of things. Acre is our retail-friendly app, and then that all kind of comes together in a dynamic Bitcoin stack that we hope you guys participate in. And then one thing, we announced this earlier today at the hackathon. We are now going to be working with Draper Associates at the Thesis level to empower the next generation of builders. Anyone that's been building in this space has a demo or an MVP to work with us, participate in the accelerator. It's going to kick off in September and wrap up in late December. Focus on consumer on-ramps and novel use cases for people to use their Bitcoin. And so I just mentioned some of this. So DeFi, community-driven platforms, improved UX. How do we make this stuff a lot easier where people don't need to worry about how to use it or how to get into it, where it's a simple click of a button. There's a QR code here, and I think we have flyers around today for you to scan and check out the program details and info that you may need. Thank you.